Hi guys, Bolts96 here, but the O is a 0, and in today's video I have looked at each Premier League team and I have picked one player from each of those teams who should be sold this summer. Now, they could be dead weight, they could be a big earner on the wage bill, they could be one of the star players, but they will bring in some cash. So make sure to stick around to find out who I think your team should sell this summer. Nicolas Pepe. I never thought it would be possible for a £70 million signing to become a forgotten man, but hey, here we are. Pepe's transfer to Arsenal has been disastrous and they just need to get rid permanently now. Arsenal have good options on their wings and there isn't going to be a way back into the team for Pepe. They could loan him out again, but he is in the last year of his contract and they can't be letting a £70 million signing leave for nothing next summer, surely. They aren't going to recoup anywhere near the cost that they paid, but if they manage 10 or 15 million pounds this summer, it will be much better than nothing. Aston Villa, Bertrand Traore. From one winger to the next, Bertrand Traore should be sold this summer. He spent the first half of last season on loan in Turkey and then came back to play 226 minutes of football in the league. Villa have so many wing options and Traore is clearly surplus to requirements. He is in the last year of his contract, and if they want to avoid losing him for nothing in the summer, they should offload him now and get some money towards incoming transfers. I don't think that he would bag them a lot of money, but he is still only 27 years of age, and on his day he is dangerous, so there could be a team out there willing to spend around 10 million on him, maybe. Bournemouth, Jamal Lowe. I promise this isn't just going to be a list on right wingers, but here we go again. To be fair, the majority of Bournemouth squad I think they should keep. They haven't got the biggest of teams and a lot of those players will be important in helping them stay up again this season. However, one of those I think who should be let go is Jamal Lowe. He was out on loan last season with QPR and I think it is pretty clear to see that he just isn't the level required at Bournemouth in the Premier League. I'm sure there will be a team in the Championship who are in need of a winger and will be willing to pay a couple of million to bring him in. Brentford, David Raya. This entry is certainly a different take from the previous three. Those picks were looking at dead wood who needed shifting out. This one is looking at one of the star players for Brentford. It is no secret that Raya has attracted a lot of interest, and I think Brentford's signing of Flecken is an indicator that they expect to lose Raya this summer, which, although it is never good losing star player, this might be the right time. The hype around Raya is huge at the minute and he is smack bang in his prime. If there is any time to demand the biggest transfer fee that you can pull for him, now would be the time. If Brentford managed to sell Raya for the rumoured 40 million that they are quoting, then it would be good business for a position which they already have covered, and it would allow them to invest those funds into other positions on the pitch, namely, I'm looking at striker to cover the absence of Tony. They need someone who is going to lead the line for them for the majority of the season, and have 40 million in the bank would allow them a lot more freedom and power in the transfer market to get someone suitable. Brighton, Moises Caicedo. Similar to the last entry, I'm looking at one of the star players for Brighton and saying that they should sell him this summer. Caicedo is a great player and an important cog in this team, but if they manage to get 70 million or more, as is being quoted in the media, then that is a lot of money to help improve 2 or 3 positions in their team, which they could do with considering their qualification into Europe for next season. They are going to need a bigger squad to be able to compete across so many competitions, and the money that they could get for Caicedo would really help them make investments into the whole team. He would of course be a loss to the team, but I think they'd be alright, and I think they would make some smart signings with the money, which would be very typical of this Brighton side. Burnley, Johan Berg Gudmundsson. I have admired Gudmundsson for a long time as he has been a decent player for this team since his arrival, and I've always got a soft spot for players from small countries making it big, but I think this could be the season for him to leave Burnley. I don't think it will actually happen because Company seems to like him and he did play a lot of games from last season. He's clearly still relied upon, but his output wasn't actually mind-blowing, and I think at 32 years of age they should probably look to move him on and get an improvement in that position. He isn't deadwood and he wouldn't bring in a lot of money, but I think he is a player who can be improved upon, and I think one who should be if Burnley want to improve their chances of staying in the league. Chelsea, Hakim Ziyech. Chelsea have an abundance of players who they should sell, which they are heavily trying to do considering they have the most overinflated squad in the league by a long shot. So many players would be considered dead wood here and should be shifted out. I could have picked any number of them, so I've just cherry picked Ziyech for this entry. He was very close to a move away in January, and I think it will be just a matter of time before he is moved on this window. He is a very good player and would do well for a lot of teams in Europe, so I do think a move away would be massively beneficial to him, Chelsea, and whichever team end up signing him. Crystal Palace, Remy Matthews. This was a hard pick because Crystal Palace's squad is so small and they have already lost players this summer. So I've gone for the extremely exciting pick of their 4th choice goalkeeper. Matthews was on loan in Scotland last year and he clearly just doesn't have a future at Palace. He should move on for the sake of his own career and Palace wouldn't be missing much in selling him. He'd free up a little bit on their wage bill and give them an extra spot in their squad allocation. So just get him sold, and Palace, please, make some signings because you are stripped thin at the moment. Everton, Michael Keane. Michael Keane was a big money signing for Everton, but his time there has been such a mixed bag, and I think a lot of Everton supporters would agree that he should be moved on and improved upon. He isn't good enough to be playing regularly for this side, which is why he only managed 12 appearances in the league last season. If a player is struggling to get into that Everton side last season, then they clearly don't have a future at the club. He is 30 years of age, so they might be able to get a little bit of money out of him, and they need as much money as possible to be able to invest into this squad. Just count your losses on this one, Everton, and look for a replacement. Fulham, Tom Cairney. Tom Cairney had been a huge player for Fulham over the years and was the best performer in their squad a couple of seasons ago, but the team has moved on now. They have improved and will likely continue to improve this summer, which will push him further down the pecking order. He did manage a lot of appearances last season, but they were only a few minutes at a time and not really anything of much note. At 32 years of age, he is starting to get on, but he should still have plenty in the tank to be a good player for a big team in the Championship next season, or one of the top 3 promoted teams this season. I think for him, he should look to move out and play regularly, and for Fulham, they should look to get him off the wage bill to make space for a new midfield reinforcement. Liverpool, Joel Matip. I know there are rumours banding about with Thiago possibly leaving, and word is that we would need to make a sale of a midfielder before we bring another one in, which I think is pretty silly considering we have just lost 3 central midfielders and have only made 2 signings in return. We need a big squad for all of the competitions that we have and should be making another midfield signing either way. Thiago is injury prone, and if we are to sell one, I would probably say him, considering that and at 32 years of age, but he is still brilliant when he plays, and as mentioned, we should be making a 3rd midfielder signing anyway. So I'm looking at Matip with this one, who looked like an absolute shadow of the player that he has been for Liverpool throughout his career at the club. He has been a brilliant player for us, but the mistakes that him and Gomez were making last season were ridiculous and drastically need improving on. I could have placed either of them in here, but Gomez's age, versatility and homegrown status means that for me, he stays and Matip goes. Luton Town, Luke Freeman. Luton Town surprisingly had a rather large squad considering their smaller club status, but I do think a number of those players are not going to be good enough for the Premier League, and Freeman is one of those. An Arsenal graduate, a lot was expected of Freeman at the start of his career, but now at 31 years of age, it is clear and has been clear for some time that he is solidly a Championship player. That isn't a slight on Freeman at all, and he is a good player, but he just isn't good enough for this league in my eyes. They should look to offload him. Manchester City, Aymeric Laporte. It shows the insane depth of this City team that Aymeric Laporte is 4th choice centre-back for them. What a fantastic player he is, and he could walk into most teams in the world, but he can't walk into this one. And as rumoured, should be on the lookout to leave and play more football. City could get a tidy sum for Laporte and they wouldn't be missing too much in selling their 4th choice centre-back, whilst Laporte will get to play regularly for what would probably be a big European side somewhere in the continent. Manchester United, Eric Bailly. Most people would probably be crying out for Harry Maguire to be sold, and I wouldn't disagree, but realistically they wouldn't get close to the sum paid for him, and they have other centre-back options who they should prioritise selling over Maguire. The main one of those other centre-backs that should be sold in my eyes is Eric Bailly. A lot was expected of him when he joined United, and I don't think that he was ever terrible. He just didn't live up to the hype. Having been out on loan in League last season, I think now is the time for him to be offloaded permanently. He will be a good acquisition for any lower half Premier League side or one of the bigger teams in the league like Liga, Eredivisie or the Super League. United have quite a lot of deadwood shift and they should start by selling Bailly on. Newcastle United, Paul Dummett. There are a number of players still at Newcastle from before their oil money days and a number of those who need to be moved on. Dummett has been at Newcastle for a very long time, but he is not good enough for this squad anymore and should be let go. They wouldn't get much money for him, if anything, which wouldn't matter to them, but it would just free up a spot in the squad and get him out of somewhere else where he might play more than the one appearance in the League Cup that he made last season. He'd do well enough for a Championship side, so go on Newcastle, just let him go. Nottingham Forest, Sam Surridge. Forest have a very big squad after last season's antics, and I think a good number of those signings should be moved on as they have not been good enough. But with this entry, I'm actually picking a player who was with them before their promotion to the Premier League. Surridge is far from being a good enough player for the Premier League, managing just 305 minutes in the league last season. He needs to be moved on. They would get a couple of million for him from a Championship side probably, and he would free up some wages for them, whilst fine-tuning this overinflated squad to be something a little more refined. Get him and a bunch of the other players sold Forest and make some smart investments before the end of the window. Sheffield United, Ryan Brewster. I feel sorry for Brewster that it is looking like his career is never going to hit the heights of his potential, but the writing is on the wall for him at this club. He just isn't good enough to lead the line, and I think they should look to get some money in for him and put it towards buying a new striker to be their main man up top. The Sheffield United squad isn't the biggest, and I think they should prioritise buying players rather than selling them, but this is one pick who I think they should offload, and as I say, use it to invest in the squad. Spurs, Tanguy Ndombele. First things first, I will point out that I actually think there is a decent player here who, if given the chance, could revitalise his career at the club, but I don't think that is going to happen, and so I think they should offload him. They have a few string players to get off the books, and Ndombele is one of those who I think could actually bag them some money. He wouldn't be sold for close to what they paid, but 15 to 20 million pounds would be realistic, and it would be a good sum to go towards any investments that they need to make to this team, and they certainly need to make investments. West Ham United, Angelo Ogbonna. With the impending sale of Declan Rice, West Ham don't need to sell anyone else, and they probably shouldn't sell too many, to be honest, unless it is to improve on a designated position. And with that in mind, I've gone for Ogbonna with this pick. Fantastic player in his day, but he is 35 years of age now and 4th choice centre-back for the team. He is past it, and West Ham would benefit from replacing him with a young choice who might eventually force his way into the team. Wolves, Raul Jimenez. Raul Jimenez was a brilliant player for Wolves and one of the best strikers in the league for a time, but he regrettably has not been close to the same level since that horrific injury. Huge respect to him for recovering from that and to continue playing, but I think for Wolves, this could be the time to let him go. 32 years of age and just not scoring for the team. They need to get him off the books and make a positive investment in the striking position. I do hope that he can join a new team and start bagging for them in the twilight years of his career, but for Wolves, now is the time to get him off the wage bill, get some money in, and make a signing who's going to score goals for them. So there we have it, guys. A big variety there. Might have ruffled a few feathers, but it's part and parcel of the game. If you liked what you watched, please do remember to like, comment and subscribe, and check me out across some of my other socials. I'm on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram and Twitch, which is where I do all of my streaming, all under the same handle, Bolts96, but the O is 0. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and I will see you on the next one.